más preámbulos, la recibimos a ella con un fuerte aplauso y yo cambio al inglés. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Evanna Lynch! Hi Evanna, welcome to Argentina. How are you, please? Can you see? Fuertes aplausos! So hi, welcome to Argentina Comic Con.
Thank you, what a warm, beautiful welcome. So nice to be here.
Yeah, it's amazing. We were anxiously waiting for you. The crowd here, we are big fans of Harry Potter. Is it your first time here in Argentina, in Buenos Aires?
Yes, first time. Yes.
First time?
Yeah.
And
I've
are you? Yeah.
Sorry?
No, are you enjoying it so far?
I am loving it. Yeah, I've been here 2 days now, and what I love is how affectionate everyone is. Like hugs, you're huggers, and land of huggers. And I went to a tango show.
Nice.
Super fun. Yeah, I just think it's a beautiful culture, beautiful people, and I feel very welcomed.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. We just love to have you here. So I'm happy that you're having a good time. And first and foremost, we're going to talk a lot about your work as an actress, about Harry Potter, of course. But I just want to congratulate you for all the great work that you do for animal rights. So thank you so much. And I wanted to ask you, when did this concern, when were you, did you decide that you wanted to, raise the voice because of this?
Yeah, when I was very young, my family, we lived in the countryside in Ireland, and always surrounded by animals. I used to watch a lot of films, like, the animated films about animals, and I always felt for them. So I think when I was around 9, 10, I started to make the connection and felt really sad about it didn't make sense to me that I would love them and support them, but also, endorse their killing. So yeah, when I was young, I went vegetarian, and then when I got older, maybe about 10 years later, I looked deeper into it and went vegan. And yeah, it's definitely, it's unusual, especially like I come to cultures like this, and meat eating, same as for Ireland, it's a big part of the culture. So I realized people, it's kind of confronting, but I think it is important. It's one of the biggest issues of our day to confront our relationship with animals. So, and I suppose like Luna, like my character, always felt very close to animals, like a spiritual connection, It goes beyond words. So yeah, I feel very happy doing that kind of work and making that choice.
Yeah, that's great.
Is it hard for you? You said you're a vegan. Is it hard being vegan?
It is hard, especially in Argentina with all the asados that we, it's meat everywhere. But yeah, and I was going to talk to you about that. That's something that, I can relate to Luna. It's very, very similar in a way, right? So you also very young became an actress, and did you decide that you wanted to be an actress first, and then Luna came as part of your search to become an actress, or were you first a fan of Harry Potter, and that brought you to audition for Luna, and then became an actress?
Yeah, no, it was sort of both. I found acting when I was very young, probably younger than when I discovered Harry Potter, because I was a very shy child. I was very anxious socially. I didn't know how to connect with people. And I love that when I found acting, it was like, you didn't have to think about that. You got to study a character, you got to study human behavior. And then I found like I could be a more confident version of myself in acting. Like, the words were written, I understood the character, I felt a real freedom when I put on someone else's, name and identity. So I always wanted to, and then I think the two went hand in hand. I saw the Harry Potter films being made, and I thought, that's the world I dream of entering. And at the same time, I also really wanted to be in the performing arts. So yeah, a bit of a crossover. At that age as well, you're still figuring everything out. You don't really know what your destiny is. Yeah.
That's amazing. And you were also a fan of the books, right? You were a big fan when you were a kid.
Yes.
What attracted you to the saga?
Oh, it was the characters. It was that, I think it was Harry really. It was that he was, when, in his head, you felt like he was such an ordinary person, an ordinary child, adolescent, young adult. He had this sense of never being enough for his destiny, you know, he was the chosen one and he was supposed to be the one to vanquish evil, to save the wizarding world, and he never feels great, he never feels powerful, he actually always feels a bit weird and a bit of a misfit, and he has all this trauma from his parents dying. And I think I just really identified with him, that, you know, I had a desire like him to do good things in the world, but I felt so ordinary. And I love that he sort of managed both of those feelings. Yeah.
That's great. And I read that you actually went to an open audition for the part of Luna. So my first reaction was, okay, so there must have been massive, you know, amounts of people and many callbacks. But then I saw you, I think in an interview, saying that the casting process was actually quite fast. That, you know,
yes.
Very overnight you were there sitting with Daniel doing, you know, a screen test. How was the audition process? And as a little girl, how that impacted you? Because it must have been something.
Yes, it was very fast. I found out it was because they had already been auditioning for Luna, for that character for months, and they had already narrowed it down to 5 actresses, so I almost nearly didn't get it. Wow. You know, but then I think the producers told me that last minute they said they just weren't sure. I think that I think they weren't sure between the last 5, and so they said, well, let's have an open audition and see who comes in, as a like last sort of attempt. And I came in, but they were only a few weeks away from filming, so it was, I had my first audition when I met them, and then a week later I had the screen test, and 3 days later I got it. And that is absurdly fast. It's crazy fast for any project, but especially a big budget thing like that. But I don't think I could have waited longer than 3 days. I was dying, waiting to find out, but yeah, it was just all a whirlwind.
And how is it for an 11-year-old? You were about 11.
No, I was 14.
Oh, 14,
yeah.
Okay. But how is it for a 14-year-old girl to go through all that process so fast?
It was disorienting, you know. I had to take it just one step at a time, one day at a time, because it was too overwhelming, there was too much to consider. But at the same time, it was sort of a dream that I had been chasing for a long time, you know. I had been writing letters to the casting directors, I even made a little audition tape. So it was like once it happened, I was fully ready to dive in. It wasn't like, there was no regret, there was no sense of, what have I done? Do I even want to be an actor? I was very determined. So yeah, once it happened, I was like, let's go.
And I can tell also from watching interviews that you were super determined with being Luna, and that no one had like an argument with you. They just saw you and said, this girl is just perfect for the role. Did you do some research? Did you resonate with the character when you were a fan back then reading the books?
Yeah, she was very special to me. She just really helped me because, and I think that's why so many people are here today, that this feeling, especially when you're a teenager, of feeling so uncomfortable in your skin, feeling like the weirdest person in the room, and to see a character who was so at ease with her weirdness. She didn't ever try and stifle how strange she was. She just embraced it. That was like so liberating. And I always felt like the weird child in the room, and so to meet her character in the books, I loved that feeling it gave me. So I think it was more like I'd read the book so many times. I knew her character, I knew her backstory. So the thing I did for that role was just tap into how I felt whenever I read the book. That feeling of lightness, of joy that she has about the world, that fascination with nature. It came very easily. She's an easy character to play as well for me, because she says what she thinks. She's very honest. She's just, you kind of exhale when you're with Luna, when you're with a character who's that kind and joyful and, like light.
That's amazing. And talking about the auditioning process, we have a small tape prepared for you. ¿Podemos ver el primer tape, señor director?
I don't want to watch this.
Unfortunately, all my shoes have mysteriously disappeared. The person I suspect is nervous behind it. Mistletoe. Good thinking. It's usually infested with Nagas.
Right.
I always wanted to be Luna. I loved her. I love Luna. She's so cool. She's so honest with everyone and to herself as well. She doesn't like, fake anything.
She's so in touch with her spirit that she's not really affected by other people the way most teenagers are. Luna's always herself, and she's so comfortable with that.
Wow, that's great.
I thought it's that 16 years ago, and I'm basically saying exactly the same things.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you, how is it for you? I mean, you must have seen this footage many, many times before, but when you actually look back and you see how young you were, what makes you feel right now?
How do I feel? Trying to think.
Do you feel nostalgic? Do you feel proud?
I feel a little bit like impressed by that young version of me who just knew exactly what she wanted, and that, as I say, like, I think one of my patterns in life is to sort of question where I am, to not feel comfortable in any room, and to kind of see my younger self in a high pressure environment and just going, yeah, cool, this is where I'm meant to be. That's impressive. I feel like as you get older, almost things get a bit fuzzier. Like, I don't know. There's like a naivety of youth that you don't think about the odds. You don't think about how unlikely it is to get that audition. You just think, I'm going to get it. So I admire that idealism and naivety. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I was actually going to say, like, where do you pull the confidence to just stand in front of a casting and actually you got the part, you go on set, and I can imagine that it must be quite threatening to just be in I imagine a huge set, lots of people. Were you aware of, everything that implied getting the part when you
That
got
everything
the part?
that what?
Yeah, were you aware of, that was going to give you a lot of exposition, and, did that make you feel pressure to do well?
I was very aware of the fandom because I was a part of it already. There had already been 4 films. I was a huge fan of those actors in those films. So I knew what I was stepping into. But at the same time, the scale of it, I don't think I figured 15 years later I'd be sitting here and still talking about it, I don't, and I think as well, when we were doing the films, like, there was no social media, there was no direct connection with the fans, until we had like premieres and interviews. And so every time there would be a premiere, it was kind of a shock to go, oh wow, oh geez, this thing goes all over the world, oh, it's quite a big deal. But while making the films, it was very sheltered and very, a small, not small for really, but it was quite an intimate setting, yeah.
And what do you remember for the first days on set when you started filming the first movie?
What do I remember? It was in the Room of Requirements. So it was the scenes in the Dumbledore's army. Those were my first days. So it was kind of good because it wasn't a high pressure scene for me. It wasn't like I had a whole scene to learn. I kind of just got to be in the world and get to know the other cast. And I was very nervous though. I was very much like, I wanted to do everything perfect, and I couldn't understand how the other actors were like having a laugh and just joking and talking about school and their personal lives, and I was like, we're making a Harry Potter film, it's serious, But that's what I had to learn. I had to learn to relax and let go, because if you're too tense, if you're trying to do things perfectly, that doesn't translate well on film. You've got to be relaxed. Yeah.
That's great. And Luna is quite a character, she marches to the beat of her own drum, she's super honest, but at the same time it's very sweet, she knows the exact right thing to say. I believe she's she's a mentor to Harry, because whenever he's, you know, in trouble or just lost, you know, with just one tiny sentence, Luna just knows exactly what to say to set his path, to put him back, you know, on track. How did you prepare the character as an actress? Where did you draw inspiration to build the character?
To be quite honest, I didn't have to do a whole lot of prep work because the books are so well written. The characters are so well written. You know, I've done other projects since where you do have to do a lot more research and digging, and you have to create the backstory. But Luna, she was so textured, and I felt I understood her. So I didn't. There was like conversations about the costume. I was quite involved with that. You know, like her jewelry and everything. I used to make those things, and that was something that was built into the character. The fact that she was very creative, and she used to make. They wanted, you know, her clothes and her accessories to look handmade, like, or you know, made from her heart and her personality. But no, it's not like, you know, nowadays I have to do a lot of research for characters. They're much more complex, but there was just something, in a way, she's not complex. She's what you see is what you get. She's this just very quirky, open-minded, colourful young woman. And yeah, it wasn't a lot of prep.
Well, I actually read somewhere that J.K. Rowling, she wasn't done with the books when you guys started filming, and she said that she pulled a lot of inspiration from you, from Evanna, to finish writing, you know, Luna's story in the books. Is that right? Did you guys get to talk about that? Do you feel you inspired the Luna that we see in the last books?
Yeah, I mean, I heard that. That was like the biggest compliment ever. Like, to have influenced an author I admire so much. But we didn't have conversations. I think she meant that was just, my voice was probably in her head as she wrote. I wonder if it was maybe to do with, maybe I helped make Luna Irish, because I think in the books it was never commented that she was Irish, and I imagine Jo had written her as like the other ones from, you know, she lived near the Weasleys, she probably had an English accent. But I remember when I got cast thinking, are they going to want me to be English? And they never said anything. And so I just kept my accent. And I'm really happy about that. I'm happy to have like Irish representation there. I think it makes sense for her character because our culture is very rich in mythology and the mysticism, and you know, fairy stories, all of that. So that all feels very Luna, it's very spiritual. But no, I never had that conversation. It's the greatest compliment, but I think it was like subconsciously I accidentally invaded her imagination. I don't know. But yeah, hopefully, maybe in her head Luna now has an Irish accent. I hope.
That's great. Okay, so we're gonna take a look at a clip that shows the best scenes from Luna, and we're gonna talk a little bit about backstage and filming and how did you get to actually do these scenes. ¿Podemos ver el segundo tape, señor director?
Hello, Harry. Expecto Patronum. You're not going mad. I can see them too. You're just as sane as I am. Escape. Hello, Harry Potter.
Your feet. Are they cold?
Bit. Unfortunately, all my shoes have mysteriously disappeared. I suspect narvals are behind it.
Wow, that's great. So we just saw some of Luna's most memorable scenes. What do you remember, like, if you had to pick one scene that you really enjoyed filming throughout the 4 films, which one would it be?
Definitely the wedding, because Bill and Fleur's wedding, because that was where I got to meet another Lovegood for the first time. Luna got a dad in that film, Xenophilius Lovegood, who's played by the lovely Risa Fans. And I remember just, you know, like Luna is the odd one out, and you feel, I used to always feel that playing her, that she wears the brightest clothes and people are a little bit uncomfortable around her. And I got used to that feeling, but you know, everyone wants to feel like they belong, like they have another half. And I remember when he came, I remember seeing him for the first time. It was like across a parking lot, a car park, and he was in his beautiful yellow robes and he had white fluffy hair. And I felt my heart kind of go, like, there's another one of me, you know? It was only 3 days with him of filming. But it was such a lovely experience to be like, oh, the 2 weirdos in the room, and we got to make up the little dance, and you know, we just got to enjoy the wedding, to hang out, and I genuinely had so much fun, and I felt like I have family here. Yeah.
Yeah.